Yeah, Ancient Mahar here. I guess I could just answer comments from now until maybe the end of time, because another response to a comment. And, there's so many comments on the channel, and please keep them coming. It's great. And whether you agree with me, you disagree with me, whether you're just commenting to each other and supporting each other, that's all great. But then there's this type of comment that I don't want to say not so great, because I understand people are in pain, and I really want you to know I have compassion for the commenter here, but like, wow, vilifying the person that hurt you with BPD is one thing. Vilifying all people on earth with BPD or who've had BPD or have the label, or maybe people think they have it, but they don't have it. And all of these different scenarios among all the people in any group, but people with BPD who are not all the same. Okay, so I'm never here to dispute somebody's individual experience, right? But definitely comments like this are sort of like a few comments I responded to earlier. It's like the shirking of the codependent's responsibility. This is in a different way though. So this comment was if okay, it was left on my video. BPD, NPD, just making choices without accountability. Codependent dilemma, which I believe that was from like yesterday at this point, right? October 23rd, that's right. Anyway, shouldn't put time references in videos. And so the comment reads, I hate to hear excuses for these horrible demonic actions that destroy good loving partners. They are a waste they are a wart on the backside of this earth and need to learn the damage they do. It's unforgivable. And off they go to the next victim to destroy. First of all, people with BPD don't have the ability, like I said in another video, to destroy your mind, and they don't have the ability to destroy you. So as the commenter suggests, if you feel like you've been destroyed, then why aren't you in therapy? And I remember a comment of yours prior saying, well, you think you should be, but you can't afford it. Okay, people have troubles, especially in this day and age, and people can have troubles in general, but I don't see how you cannot afford it. I mean, in terms of what you need, not, talking to anybody's financial situation. So the commenter says, I hate to hear excuses for their horrible demonic actions that just, okay, first of all, that infers I was making excuses. I'm going to say I have a little bit of an issue with that, okay? Because I'm not here to make excuses for anybody, and that includes you, commenter, and codependents like you, who do feel like you feel. Fair enough, but guess what? You are 100% responsible now for your pain. The person that hurt you with BPD and beyond, hurt, I'm sure, is gone, right? And now it's your healing and recovery process that's your responsibility. And that doesn't sound like it has any equity in it, right? But the reality for people with BPD at 87% is that they don't ask to be abused in childhood either, okay? Like, you didn't want to be abused in a relationship, but they didn't ask to be abused when they were infants or early toddlers. That's not an excuse, It's an explanation. And more to the point, what I will continue to do on this channel. And I'm in the middle of building, two websites, but one doesn't apply to what I do here, but another website to support what I do here. Then I'm going to have all kinds of things coming for people that won't all be free, but they will be really in depth. But here's the thing, so first of all, you infer, or guess you feel like, in the video I did yesterday, you heard excuses for these people. Well, no, I wasn't making excuses, but here's the thing. What would be your excuse for this presentation? Because you know what? You kind of need one, in my humble opinion. Because this is like the codependent victim, and I mean no disrespect to you. And I understand you've been in a lot of pain, maybe still are. But this is the codependent victim. Like, yeah, I guess you were victimized by the borderline, right? Yeah, okay. But you're staying in that victim place now. That's your responsibility, not hers. What she did was her responsibility that she doesn't know how to take responsibility for, couldn't care less about right now, right? And that's not in any universe anything I would ever make an excuse for. So if you feel like you heard excuses, I'm sorry. I give explanations and reasons, and I'm not going to say nothing about when somebody says they're horrible demonic actions, because it's not what they are at all. Are they abusive? Are they traumatizing? Yes. But are they demonic? No. Like, and that's not a defense of people with BPD who have abused or traumatized somebody either. And then you said that these actions that they destroy good loving partners. Well, you know what? With all due respect to everyone, with all due respect to the commenter, let's keep it real here, okay? Let's go deep into real. Because if you want to heal, it's where you got to go. So it's your choice, you know? But people with codependency, especially more to the extreme end of what that means, you consider yourself a good loving partner. Okay, well, I'm sure that you're a fine person, been really wounded and traumatized by a woman with BPD. So what are you putting the big X across them all for? Because they're not all the same. They don't all do the same things to people like your ex did to you, like many exes do to many. But it's, and I'm not making any excuse for that, nor do I'm not a BPD apologist. But the thing is, people with codependency aren't, quote, good loving partners, unquote. So a lot of codependents may not want to hear that. I'm not saying people with codependency can't be kind. Oh yeah, overkind, overgiving. It's not healthy love either, though, of a different variety than those with BPD. It's essentially underneath it all, it's loving to get loved. It's loving to get worth. It's loving to extract self-esteem. It's the externalization out, as I'm always saying, codependency onto the person with BPD. And so many people with codependency are with people or get with people with BPD, unbeknownst to the, you know, like unconsciously, because you have some damage inside yourself, for woundedness from childhood, and there's something familiar about that person, more to the point of the here and now, you know, in adulthood, attraction, etc. There's something else very familiar going on there. And this is getting more and more documented and well established out there. So the idea that people with codependency who get into relationships with cluster Bs, not everybody with codependency is on the same part of the spectrum, but people with codependency generally don't make, quote, I'm not going to say good loving partners, but quote, healthy loving partners, unquote. But of course, you're not with somebody who could love you. You're not with somebody who is healthy at all. And so they're even less healthy than people with codependency, although people with BP have codependency too. Not saying the same thing, right? Like for those with just codependency. But this is just somebody lashing out with their pain. And I feel for you, I really do. But how in the world is this going to help you would be my question for you, is the reason I'm doing the comment, right? Because I see these comments all day. This is said all over the internet. Let's vilify and demonize all of them. And then for some men, it becomes not just all borderline women or untreated borderline women, but it becomes all women. Which, you know, hey, to each their own. Like, it doesn't bother me personally or anything. But people with codependency, to varying degrees, are not healthy, loving partners either. And then more to the point, after the relationship, after the trauma and the abuse, how have you moved forward? And this commenter is probably like a lot of people with codependency, that they're stuck. And so stuck in this kind of anger, stuck in this kind of judgment. Thank you for the judgment, by the way. I don't take it personally, but you inferred that I was making excuses for them. No, I'm not going to make any excuses for you either. let's get real here. You have got to take responsibility for your own pain and do something about it. Throwing it back at, well, all people with BPD, or they're all demonic, or whatever you're going on about, even throwing it back at the person who really hurt you. They're gone, right? They're otherwise engaged, apparently, as you put it, to destroy the next victim. Well, yeah, probably. But guess what? What about you? What about you? And if you're going to sideswipe me in the process, wow. And then, is codependency your only issue? And then you said they are a wart on the backside of this earth. Really? Okay. I'm not defending them, but they are, here's a fact for you. They just are extremely wounded human beings. Okay. So the pain, I don't want to measure pain. The pain that you know, I'm sure it's awful and terrible for you, and I have empathy for that. It can't hold a candle to the pain they're in. That's just reality. But then what they do with it, yeah, it's abhorrent. It's not defensible, etc. But to call them a wart or warts on the backside of this earth, like it. You see, this is the I don't want to use the word inequity. It's the idea that people. I mean, there's no defending their abuse. Okay, there's no defending that. I'm not here to apologize for them or defend them. But at the same time, what makes you so much better? Because you got hurt? And because you didn't take care of yourself? And because you have codependency and maybe you didn't know how to take care of yourself? But even now you're stuck, and so you're throwing this out here? Because you're still not taking care of yourself. So how is it that they're just the warts on the backside of humanity? I'm not calling you that by any means. But like, what about people who can't pick up their own pieces? Which usually requires therapy. But this is just another one of those, mini vomits at all people with BPD because of one person that I know really terribly hurt you. And, I'm really sorry to hear. I'm really sorry about that. And then you said, and they need to learn the damage they do. Well, more to the point of whether they're ever going to figure out, some of them, whether some of them are ever going to figure out the damage they've done to the extent of the damage that some of them have done, because they don't all do the same things. People with BPD are undiagnosed or untreated. And many people pull themselves up by the bootstraps. They go through a process of therapy and recovery that I don't think the average codependent, I'm generalizing now, would be able to make it through. So that's what BPD healing and recovery is about. And there are many people doing that. But again, they're not the people that people like this commenter I've been in relationships with. They're the untreated ones, and I know they do a lot of damage. So the commenter says they need to learn the damage they do. Well, yeah, there's only one way they can learn that, though. If and when they will go to treatment. And if they never go to treatment, then they're never going to learn that. Which goes back to the trauma response that BPD really is. Which isn't an excuse, doesn't make it okay. And the thing is, so what's more important to you right now, commenter, as a codependent? That you stated here, I think, or elsewhere, I'm not sure. But the point is, like, as much as they need to learn the damage they do, but some of them may never, how is that going to help you? Like, are you going to stay stuck waiting till that person figures out what they did to you? Like, that's just martyring yourself on top of being a victim of abuse and being stuck with it and then lashing and throwing it out. And like, my point isn't like, that you take a swipe at me because I apparently was making excuses, which I'm sorry, you're just not correct about that. That's just a small thing. But the other thing is, I see so much of this from people with codependency that I think is not helpful for me to just be explaining the other side, etc., and then not ever calling out a codependent for like, hey, wait a minute, what are you doing about you? What are you doing to help you? What gives you the right to put these words out like this because you were hurt, because you were traumatized and abused. Okay, well, that shouldn't have happened, but it did, didn't it? And how are you going to heal from that? What are you doing to help yourself? Because that's way more important, I would think, for you than whether or not these people or some of the, whoever your ex is, ever understands that the damage that she did. What about you addressing the damage that you have now and doing something about it? Because then guess what? Once you heal and recover, you won't care anymore. And that's a good place, a healthy place to get. And you said it's unforgivable, and that's sad. Because it is, in a way. I mean, unforgivable, I don't know. It's not something that's ever excusable. It's not something that anybody could ever justify, nor was I trying to defend it or make excuses for it in my last video. Thank you very much. That skewed perception belongs totally to you, so please own that. And if you deem what she did to you unforgivable, then that's going to also be your cross to bear. That's also going to keep you stuck. Because part of healing and recovery is radically accepting the relationship is over. Radically accepting what happened doesn't mean it's okay. Then working to heal and recover and go to that wounded inner child inside and not just be a martyr victim and throw out words like this. And also, if it's unforgivable, then you're always going to be in a modicum or some degree or level of this pain. You'll be resentful and you'll be perhaps bitter. And all of those things can hurt not only your mental health, but your physical health. So how's it good for you? How's it helping you to go, it's unforgivable? Nobody's asking anybody to forgive it. But in a process of healing and recovery, it is really important to forgive, because forgiving is really remembering and letting go. It's not about saying what they did was okay. Like, I don't know where I'd be today if I didn't forgive my family of origin. BPD, NPD mother, dark triad father, several people with BPD, a couple of psychopaths. It was just like an extended family from where. But I had to move forward, no contact, then do the healing and recovery, whatever it is in people's lives, and let it go. Because that's a gift that you can give to yourself. But if you maintain it's unforgivable, then you got a whole lot more stuck coming to you. I don't think that's what you really want. I hope that isn't what really happens for you. And then you said, and off they go to the next victim to destroy. Well, it's not like they're on a mission. It's not like they have the intent. They don't have a manifesto written in their back pocket about how they're going to go destroy the next person. And they hurt and they wound and they abuse and they traumatize. They do, and there's no excuse for that. And I don't make excuses on this channel. So yeah, I'm going to go back to that part because it's not the only reason I'm doing this video. Of course not. But that you could skew things to say I was making excuses, especially in what I said in that last video. It really just speaks to how much you're in pain, but how little responsibility you're taking for your pain. And I'm not saying that the abuse wasn't her fault. It totally was. But now, what are you doing? Because in this communication, with all due respect, you're stuck in a martyr victim place. That's going to hurt, like way more than working on it. And then they do go off to the next person who more than likely will be victimized. But you know what? In this day and age, people with codependency need to wake up. People with codependency need to get real about getting into treatment, their own healing, and their own recovery. People with codependency need to heal childhood wounds. People with codependency to varying degrees need a lot of therapy. And people with codependency to varying degrees need to wake up to the reality that if you're going to live your life unbounded, and if you're going to, nobody knows what's happening in the beginning of the idealization and the honeymoon phase, but people with codependency need that, are hungry for that from early childhood. And people who don't have codependency, or only a modicum of it, or however we define it, who are bounded individuals, healthier and more emotionally mature than most with codependency, they won't even nibble on, oh, the oh so good promise of the borderline in the idealization and the honeymoon phase. So again, this comes back to something that happened in your life. This comes back, not what she did. That's her responsibility that she'll never take. And you maybe would benefit from practicing some radical acceptance around that. And so wherever she's off to do whatever she's off to do, at this point I would suggest it's not in your best interest to give a care what she's doing or why. And yeah, I don't recommend that people who can't even take care of themselves yet and aren't in a healing recovery journey and need to say this kind of thing and then assume I'm making excuses. I've been online for like, well, I don't know how many years, since 1995. Not in one blog post, not in one video, not on one podcast, not to one client in 30 plus years. I haven't been online for 30 years quite yet, but you know, working with people prior to that. Not one time have I ever made an excuse for a person with BPD. But all this time, what I've been doing is explaining it. So that comes back to you, sir. And that comes back to what you won't heal, how you can't move out of there. And when people can't, guess what? It's a choice. It might be an unconscious choice. But please don't be telling me that you hate to hear excuses because I wasn't given excuses. And I'm going to keep it real here and put it right back at you and say, so what are you doing to help yourself? Because you can be a martyr victim forever. And you can say it's unforgivable and they're a wart on the backside of this earth. And how are you doing for a man of your age? What age do you think you are emotionally right now in your pain? I don't mean that to be a hard ass or to judge. But this is the other side of codependency. Oh yeah, when the anger comes out, and then codependents aren't being responsible for what they aren't really holding their own responsibility sometimes for what they say and what they float out there. And, you know, I don't take it personally or anything, but yeah, when you basically say that I made excuses in the last video I did, well, wow, your view is skewed because I don't make excuses. I never have. I don't make excuses for anything I did in the past, though I was not behaving like these people today. I don't make any excuses for anything. I've owned everything in my own life. I've done the best job I could, and so do many people with BPD. And so I do kind of draw the line at martyr victim codependents, thinking it's okay to sling in anything and everything you want at them. At the person that hurt you, well, that's kind of your business. But on this channel here, and what you're saying I said, then it becomes my business too. And like I said, I'm not here to defend people with BPD or their behavior at all. But they're not all the same. And I'm going to keep saying this. I just have a little channel. I get it. But all across the internet, the entirety of anything to do with BPD or many other things, vilification all over the place. And yet, hear me when I say this. No woman with borderline personality, no matter how seductive, no matter how whatever in the beginning, and it's not even like seductive as in doing that to you, nobody could make you go there. Nobody could make you want that. Nobody could make you. So you have responsibility in this because of your own choices. It doesn't mean you knew what was going to happen or how much you were going to get hurt. But, you know, I don't care if you want to call people some, or, you know, the person that hurt you, definitely call them a wart on the backside of this earth, or call, I don't, you know, if you call everybody that or whatever with BPD. But how is that going to help you is the question here. Because if somehow that helps you, then you're helping yourself in a rather dysfunctional way. And you're not helping yourself to more increased mental health and to clearing out your pain. And then the question becomes, what happened to you in your childhood? And do you know or don't you know? And why aren't you working on healing that? But please don't come to my channel. I mean, I hope that you'll comment again, but you never know. Because I'm going to keep it real. But I don't want people to say that I don't want. No, it doesn't matter what I want. It isn't accurate to say I was making excuses. Because I was talking about, ironically enough, in that video that you commented on here, about choices, as if people with BPD and NPD are making choices like consciously, like on purpose. No, often they're not. And if people can't hear that yet, then you need to do more in your own healing work, because guess what? You, sir, right now are an example of a person with codependency who doesn't realize all the choices that you made. You haven't owned your choices yet, which doesn't mean that you're responsible for what she did to you. No, not at all. But people with codependency have to own their choices too. So I was talking about choices. So here, see, I'm not leaving any room for excuses for people with codependency either. So how's that feel? Because probably my keeping it that real, not supposed to go both ways, is it? Just saying. Anyway, yeah, this is the thing that I don't know if other people push back against, because the narrative out there is so much about what happened to everybody, what the BPD did to everybody. And of course, I'm not here as an apologist for what they've done at all. But I'll just say this much again, that whoever hurt you, this commenter, that's the person you should have the problem with. Just like every other person, I'm also the ex of 2 quiet borderlines and a BPD NPD alcoholic. I also got put through the blender, thank you. I know how it is. I know what it's like on that side too. But like, I work my way through these things like a reasonably healthy and mature and, an adult who has emotional, what's the word? I have EQ, emotional intelligence, because that's what we need to apply to these healing and recovery journeys. So again, not here to be antagonistic in any way or don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but this comment you left helps nobody. And more to the point, it can't help you. And you sound like you need some help, and you sound like you're in a lot of pain. So I hope you'll do something about that. Because all across the internet, there are exes everywhere, and maybe even some people who had the family of origin like I did, still making, yeah, it's like, oh, well, they're this, they're that, and the other thing. Devaluing is what it is, eh? This is an example of codependent devaluation. Oh, but I thought only borderlines did that. No, happens to exist in humanity. So again, I'm not here to make excuses for them, but I'm not going to make excuses for codependence anymore either. So I wonder how that's going to go down. Just saying. I mean, when I work with clients, I'm extremely empathic. I don't mean to be unempathic here, but I am going to keep it real. And yeah, if you think that I'm making excuses for people with BPD, then you're not thinking. You're feeling instead. And then you're projecting that out over here. And frankly, that's not what I'm here for. Anyway, I hope this will help somebody. I'm sure it will not be a great message for people with codependency, but you know what? You're not saints because you got traumatized by a borderline. And they're not the opposite of that necessarily. I'm not going to defend them, but some of them might go on to heal one day, and you won't know. Bottom line is, if exes would stick with talking about the person that hurt them, instead of slinging that all over the place and all over everybody who's ever had any kind of diagnoses, do you think that poor behavior is only in the domain, or worse behavior, is only in the domain of BPD though, or NPD? And people with codependence, I'm not saying everybody's the same, but there's some codependents out there that are not all love and light. Codependency is a pretty serious issue. So, I hope psychiatry doesn't pathologize it. There's already somebody out there pathologizing it, but it doesn't mean, codependency means there's something that is affecting your mental health, not just to the commenter, but to anybody with codependency. It's not mental health codependency. It's very much in the relational arena at the minimum for people. Very much something going on there that comes from a similar place, not the same place, as people with BPD, hurt and woundedness from childhood. And because people with BPD are hurt and wounded even more than people with codependency in childhood. No, it doesn't give them a license to do what they do. But see, people with codependency have the responsibility. As soon as you realize you're being abused, as soon as you realize what's going on, then why do people want to keep going back? Why do people want to keep loving these people? What's up with that? Because that is the responsibility of people with codependency. That isn't the borderline's responsibility. They're responsible for what they do. But hey, codependents, and I'm not lumping you all together with this particular codependent who's not trying to be in any way rude to, but obviously needing a lot more help. And some people with codependency are doing quite well and getting on and through the relationship recovery from the relationship, and some aren't. But I just think it's really important to keep it real on both sides. And it doesn't mean it's equal. And I'm not a BPD apologist, and I'm not making excuses. But I would ask you, commenter, what are your excuses for this presentation and the sideswipe? Really? I'm sorry, because you must be feeling really powerless to need to do that. And I really feel for you on that. I really do. But the bottom line is I just see too many comments like this that just like to keep letting them go by. I don't think I'd be providing the education that I really intend to provide to people. Because once you've been hurt and traumatized by the borderline, which there's no defending that, there's no excuse for that, but there's also equally no excuse for sitting in your stewing and being a martyr victim and continuing to be, and then lashing out like that. Is that really commiserate with who you think you are? Is that commiserate with your age? Is it commiserate with your, well, it suggests you have some healing work to do and some work to do from your past to up-level your emotional intelligence. And I hope that you will one day change your mind about what happened to you is unforgivable, because it's not about saying what they did to you was okay. It's totally about remembering and letting go after one processes anger, after one processes the pain. So anyway, I'm out here to work with it if you resonate with me. And no, I don't have this presentation ever with a client, but I work my butt off for people. And I'm not a BPD apologist. I don't feel like there's any need to defend them whatsoever, except to say that what codependents say about them in terms of they need to understand this and they need to understand that. Sure, I wish they did too, for all of your sakes, and I wish that my parents understood what they did to me. And I wish the narky golden child sibling, knew what he did to me. And I wish that my grandmother, and I wish that the quiet BPD exes I have, one late, and the BPD NPD alcoholic I was at 2004, 2000, I wish they would get it too. But you know what? I don't invest any time or energy in that anymore, because it's a waste of time and energy. And what it does is it's you now re-victimizing yourself, not in the way that she traumatized you, but this is what people with codependency can do. This is how serious this is. So, I live my life free of all the abuse and trauma that I've been through, and it is multiple. And, and that doesn't mean anything. Like, I'm not comparing between you and I, commenter, but I'm just saying people can choose to heal, or people can choose to stew and blame. And it doesn't mean that the people with BPD don't have accountability and responsibility, that they're not, some of them are never going to get to, and many of them will, and many of them do. But nobody ever talks about that part, right? So maybe keep focus more on, not really focus more on, but the one person that hurt you so badly. But then again, you need to focus more on yourself. You need to get into a healing recovery journey, because no matter what words you put up here, it just indicates that you're not on that journey of healing recovery yet. And that must mean you're in a world of hurt, and I do feel for that. But I am going to keep it real here, because you have responsibility now that's yours and all yours, in spite of what she did. That doesn't take away her responsibility. But is this what you call responsible communication? Just a question. Take care.